everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Startuprad.io, your podcast show with startup news and interviews from Germany.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Jörn from Startuprad.io, your startup news, interviews, podcast and YouTube blog from Germany. And I have with me once again the very excited Christian. How are you doing, man?
Fantastic. Hello, Jörn.
And we talked almost half an hour before the new start of the startup news recording, and actually Chris' soundboard is going full force. So
yes, New York is on fire today. There's the alarms outside, a lot of sirens. I don't know what's going on, but I guess it's just another day in the city. But before we start with today's show, I today have the pleasure to announce our sponsoring message. Startups.observer supports our program. Startups.observer is like online dating for startups and investors. It's by far the easiest and most efficient way to research potential investment candidates or look for potential investors. You can learn more at startups.observer. It is a good name. It's very telling.
Yeah, Observer is, by the way, a new top-level domain. And housekeeping, our media partners went wild. You may know, or you may have noticed that we do have much more views in YouTube, for example, than we actually have subscribers. That comes from the very simple fact that we have started a syndication network, if you like to call it that way. So we cooperate with a lot of startup blogs out there, and they're just 2 examples or 3 examples of what we did last month. We started our media partnership with Arctic Startups with our interview of Maria from Accelerator Frankfurt. A new interview with the Independent Accelerator Frankfurt program, your way to enter Germany and a proven go-to-market approach. Learn more on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/startupradio, or on the link via Arctic Startups. Also, berlinstartups.de did feature us as the headline story on January 24th with our interview from Gerd Penta, and we started a new media cooperation with Gründermetropole Berlin, a German blog focused on the Berlin startup scene. And by the way, this is a syndication recording together with Gründermetropole Berlin. And finally, analytics company Cloud.com ranks Startuprad.io as one of the top 0.1% social media influencers on startups globally. And I should mention, this recording is done on the 26th of February 2018. All the news before are included. Everything after will be included in our March news.
Yes. We can quickly move on and talk about the ecosystem because, as always, we found a couple of interesting articles there. One being an analysis at Gründerszene.de, the German, like a big German startup blog that, disclaimer, I'm also working for. And Gründerszene calculates that only 41% of ICOs have been successful, still alive with the product, that is. And those failed projects raised $104 million, with a further $129 million worth of projects potentially failing. The article continues. So it seems as if, there's obviously a lot of dynamics in the market that probably not all of the blockchain-based ICOs might be successful. Then there is Engine Mobility, a spin-off of Gründerszene.de that warns of a VC bubble in the valuation of mobility startups. Obviously, also a very dynamic beat right now, or very dynamic tier of the market right now. And there's so much talk about e-commerce startups like Zalando or other Rocket Internet clones. And now comes e-commerce-blog.de and calculates Amazon to have a market share of a whooping 53%.
This is actually pretty sad news for the German e-commerce startups, right?
Yes, yes, I think it is.
Hubs, Frankfurt, Exit, Poltergeist.chat. The Frankfurt-based chat app is sold to the market leader in beauty, writes RightMind Startups. Poltergeist has more than 500,000 registered users and clients like Apple and Nike. Rent24, or in German Rent24, a competitor of WeWork and the like, just opened its first co-working location in a tower in Frankfurt. Pandu.ventures, a Frankfurt-based startup accelerator program, was selected by Alpha Gamma as one of the best accelerator programs in Europe. Congratulations, guys. And then there's Plug and Play, backed by the publishing giant Axel Springer, the largest global innovation platform, they call themselves, partners with Frankfurt-based Tech Quartier, the one-stop startup hub in the heart of Frankfurt, to run its accelerator program focused on fintech. So this is the first based online-only bank, ING DiBa, as the educated listener can guess. It's the German arm of Dutch financial service giant ING, buys Rocket Internet's P2P SME lending platform called Lendigo, writes Finanzien.de exclusively. This is the first fintech acquisition of a large Germany-based bank. Deutsche Startuprad.io has a more critical view of this. They quote ARD, which is like the largest public broadcaster in Germany. ING only buys software it does not have and is not taking on the risk of its own software development. Lendico, on the other hand, never took off. So what's your take, guys?
I have to admit, I don't know that much about it. I just have a very conservative impression of the German bank industry. I think historically, probably Deutsche Bank has been the most visible outside of Germany, and being probably the biggest in other countries. Deutsche Bank right now also having some issues with money. With money and Trump, which is probably another say, but I don't have an opinion about Lendico. That's more your area of expertise. So what do you think?
Well, I can't go into details, but I can tell the people that DiBa, Direct Bank, is a Germany-based bank at some years back bought by ING. And personally, I do know that software development, especially in big banks, is usually a big project, and there are high probabilities of failing in such undertakings. And you can sink millions of euros worth into something like that. And for them, it makes sense to actually eliminate this risk. But another topic, Frankfurt invests up to 20 million euros to become one of Europe's top 5 startup hubs till 2023, reports Gründerszene. We hope this money is spent wisely. We will see what Frankfurt achieves with the money. Cities like Hamburg have started their own 100 plus million venture capital fund and still do not make it far in the international rankings. Adding to that, we know from our sources here in Frankfurt that critical voices from the first round of discussions leading to this master plan have not been invited back to the second round. And also, I have to admit, Startuprad.io was completely excluded from the whole process. So it wasn't like consensus building. It was more the achievement of a political goal. Mm-hmm. And I gotta admit, I don't know if they're really achieving what they want to do. I assume it's 20 million going to Tech Quartier. And keep in mind, also Leipzig was pretty high up in the rankings like 2 or 3 years back, and they set up their own venture capital fund to assist startups that actually started in Leipzig. But you don't hear a lot from them as well, right?
No. I don't. But no.
Okay. Mainz-based startup Theseus, number 1 platform for academic research in the German-speaking area, is sold to Persona Service Group, reports RightMind Startups. And there is a really up-to-date update from today. Today, Oliver Nagler announced at the Crypto Asset Conference of Frankfurt School that they will do an ICO. Oliver Nagler, you got to see, is the founder behind FinTech Headquarter and blockchain Helix. So let's see what this means. We actually only got those news up front so we can share it online.
Yeah.
Let's go outside of Frankfurt and into companies in general.
Yes, let's talk companies. So, like minor good news, or not minor good news for the company itself, but just in the general spectrum of things. Berlin-based startup Booking Kit raises a mid-million range, so we assume kind of 4 to 7 million euros venture capital in a Series B. The company offers service for small travel agencies focusing on events, so good for them. And moving on to
that are pretty sad news that we want to talk about now. we told our listeners, our viewers, that Twitter invested $70 million in Berlin-based startup SoundCloud. Now, Gründerszene took a look at their annual report, which shows Twitter had to write off almost 67 million of that. That is actually no good news for SoundCloud, so I hope they still can make it. And by the way, we also host some of our podcasts on SoundCloud.
Yeah, and it's definitely not only bad news for SoundCloud or Twitter, but also for the whole ecosystem in Germany, because SoundCloud always was one of the tent poles of the German startup culture, and one project that everyone pointed to very proudly.
So, I remember that they've been traded at one point as a candidate for an IPO.
Not a Black Friday, but a Grey Friday for startups in Berlin was February 23rd. For example, not only did Move24 file for insolvency, but also the design furniture platform Monarchy, which was reported by Deutsche-Startups.io exclusively. And Move24 appears to have lost the race against Movinga. Move24 has to file for insolvency. Both startups have been in strong competition and involved in lawsuits. Both offer a platform to move your house or move your apartment.
Yes, and Monoki and Move24 both had to file for insolvency on the same day, which is, well, you just have to calculate with a lot of failures of startups. But it's unfortunate that at least Move24, which has been in the news for quite some time, had to file for insolvency. Talking about a little bit more good news, General Atlantic, an investor, as you can guess, from the US, buys 25.1% in the digital subsidiary of German media house Pro7 They run 2 TV stations, one Pro7, one Sat1, and several special interest channels. Their subsidiary is called New Company and Newcom, NUCOM Group, and the basis for this deal is a valuation of 1.8 billion euros for Newcom, writes Deutsche Startups.io.
We have Berlin-based Internet of Things startups Relayer, which raised 30 million euro venture capital from a US fund called Kleiner Perkins and from the German telecommunications giant Telekom, as reported by Gründerszene.
Well, no news without Rocket Internet Manager Magazine. It's a German respected periodical that sometimes takes pretty critical views, especially of Rocket Internet, if you remember the news we had last time. Nonetheless, Manager Magazine writes, Oliver Samwer, the brain behind Rocket Internet, should also be one of the largest investors in the Iranian startup scene. Secretly, they report, they write his first investment was Iran Internet Group in summer 2014.
That's crazy. That's quite nice reporting they did there. Rewe, which is a German grocery giant, raised a mind-blowing 1 billion euro in bonded loans to fund its digital transformation. Rewe, for those of you who are not familiar with it, actually is, I think, one of a really success story, because they were really able to rebrand themselves as kind of like an upscale alternative to the discounters like Lidl or Aldi. And so it's interesting that they are also innovating in this space now.
They are headquartered in Cologne, which is just 2 hours by car away from Frankfurt, and they are actually very present here in the RightMind area. So basically you have the choice between Aldi, Lidl and Rewe, and usually there's not a lot around anything else. So for example, within walking distance, we have 4 Rewes, 1 Aldi, 1 Lidl and 1 Penny. That's it. So they're really doing some big business here and forcing their market share up. But other news, the folks from Deutsche Startups.io put together a list of 15 startups who are all hidden champions in their respective field. Just go to our show notes and have a look if you even know one of them. Let me quickly check here. They actually call it startups many people should know better, right? Did you know anyone of them?
Definitely true for me, because when I look at the names, I just realize for me they are literally very hidden champions.
Oh, Lampenwelt.de, meaning Lampenwelt, meaning
Lampworld.
lampworld.de. Yeah, we had them in the startup news with the venture capital. Maschinensucher, meaning machine search engine, machine search. It's a B2B marketplace. We had them in the startup news. Relax Days. It's an online platform around home and garden and leisure time. And let me check. No, that have been all that have been in our startup news. So if you followed all our startup news, you'll know at least some of them. Okay.
Yes. You found an analysis of payment methods. Talk about it.
Yeah, that's why I was going for O, because it's pretty sad news for the startup scene here in Europe. The top 3 payment methods per European country. Europe is pretty much dominated by PayPal, Visa, and MasterCard. Only the very appropriate named Sofortüberweisung, meaning instant transfer, makes number 3 in Germany in the top 3 payment methods.
Yeah, and probably also that for international listeners is interesting because Germany is a country where still a lot of people just pay in cash, and there's like a historical people are historically very critical of cards and credit card payments. So we're nowhere where probably countries like Sweden are, or for example, if you go to London these days, you just see that people are just tapping with their phones and with their credit cards, the machines, and that's it. And in Germany, it's just not happening yet.
In many restaurants, you have to ask even if you can even pay by credit card, meaning most of the time only the debit card is accepted and sometimes just cash only. I know a few restaurants here in Frankfurt who are still cash only.
Yeah. So let's talk about another method of payment, because we have news about Munich-based brewery Giesinger Brauerei, which raised 1.2 million in crowdfunding. And the payment here is beer vouchers. So investors will be paid back in beer vouchers. That sounds like a very reasonable return on investment for me.
Hollywood star Leonardo DiCaprio invests in art app Magnus. Magnus is like Shazam for art, reports Deutsche Startups.io.
Okay. I have to see if I have some painting of me lying around and then check it out. A Berlin-based startup claims to be better in detecting dermal cancer than doctors, writes Gründerszene, and they have all the infos about that as well. It's called Magnosco.
And then there's Berlin-based Solaris Bank. Solaris Bank generated losses in the first business year of 7.6 million euros. Gründerszene also notes that a valuation of 100 million can be deduced from the 26.3 million venture capital already invested in 2014. And you may remember from our startup news, Solaris Bank is a bank that was set up in Berlin just to be the bank working with fintechs.
Yes. And since you set up most of the events, you can be the one talking about them.
Sure. Let's talk events and competitions. We are media partner of Startuprad.io, May 25th in Berlin. Get your ticket now on your hunt for a startup job. We will also be media partner of Arctic 15, the startup event of Arctic startups in Helsinki on May 30th to 31st for Arctic and Baltic startups, called Real Return on Investment Arctic 15. Accelerator Frankfurt, an independent accelerator program, has opened its application for the next batch. They will start on March 12th. In the past, many international companies from countries like Korea, Finland, and Israel have been in the 4-month program to look in the German market and get their business started in lovely Frankfurt. And finally, Frankfurt-based Fair Light and Building offers spots for startups. Learn more how to apply here or directly in our show notes. And then we only have stay ahead of the curve.
Yes. So we got one article saying that venture builders are a criminally underrated contributor to the startup company. So yeah, you can have a look at that. And then we got some US news. For example, it's about the ever-growing Amazon, who is now worth more than 2.5 Walmarts, reports Recode. We have some background about Dropbox, which is valued privately at around $10 billion right now, and which files for a US IPO. I also saw the numbers about their profit margins today, and they are just crazy. It's like in the 50 to 60% realm. It's really crazy. And then we have a more thorough analysis of the Amazon grocery stores that are just popping up here. In Seattle, I think they now have their first tryout for that. And we have an article why that may not be the future of retail. Still a very interesting thing how retail is also going to change once we have self-driving or autonomous cars. Let alone trucks or little like vans where probably people can shop from. We will see about that. And then John Malone says Amazon is a Death Star moving and striking range of every industry on the planet. So yeah, we will see about that. And a new, yeah. Yes. And then we are also looking into the co-working space startup scene, because there is a new unconventional co-working space which is undercutting WeWork's membership fees by around 80%.
It's called Bird Nest, and a new company that pairs startups with workspaces in unused offices and restaurants at an affordable price. You can learn more at www.startuprad.io and look for the startup news tab, and then look for February news 2018. And I do believe that was it.
That was it.
Great.
Thank you.
Startup News Germany in less than 25 minutes. Guys,
at least there's that.
If you want to know more, just reach out Chris at Startuprad.io or Joe at Startuprad.io, and we can give you more details on that. Greatly appreciate you being here, Chris. Oh, your soundboard is doing something.
There is the siren. That is good. Like, this is a sign to end things. Yeah. Bye-bye.
That's it. Thanks, folks.